Shalom. It is great to be here again with so many friends. Coming from the UN, when I see a large hall with people coming to speak about Israel, usually it is a bad sign. But here it is exactly the opposite. We have so many friends of Israel, so many ambassadors for Israel. I would like to thank Pastor John Hagee and Diana Hagee and the beautiful family. I have so many friends here who came from all over. Dr. Bob Shulman from San Diego, friends from New York, which I see here. It is so good to be here with you today. It is amazing to see CUFI today. 5 million members. It is a remarkable achievement. 7. Next year, Be'ezrat Hashem, God's will, we will have 9 million people. My friends, we hear about violent anti-Semitism everywhere. In our cities, we saw what happened in Poway, in Pittsburgh. When you pray to God, you don't have to look back. You don't have to be afraid. We hear about anti-Semitic rhetoric. We hear about public officials who support anti-Semitism. We see the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe and also here in the US. And when you see public officials who endorse anti-Semitism, we cannot sit idly by. We have to condemn them, we have to isolate them, and we have to remove them from public office. Let me share with you some numbers. Israel represents 0.1% of the world's population. That's it. But Israel receives 78% of UN condemnations. Not Yemen, not Syria, not Iran, not North Korea, but Israel. We refer to the energy devoted to Israel at the UN as the anti-Israel bias, double standards, singling out Israel in resolutions, in debates. And unfortunately, instead of focusing on the real issues, in the real problems, in the atrocities in Syria, they focus only on Israel. I do not take anti-Semitism lightly and without a fight. And a few weeks ago, when a resolution to condemn all forms of religious-based violence was brought to the UN, but they forgot to include anti-Semitism, I took action. Turkey, Erdogan, he decided to put forth a resolution condemning religious-based hatred and violence. He forgot anti-Semitism. We didn't let Erdogan and his men get away with it. We called out the UN and what it was about to do. We stood up. I went from one ambassador to another to show them the language of the resolution. I told them, how dare you vote on a resolution without naming anti-Semitism? And at the end, we were successful. We got the UN to condemn anti-Semitism. We are all children of God, and together we will declare war on anti-Semitism. As Pastor Hagee said, and I quote, "Anti-Semitism isn't just a Jewish problem. It's everyone's problem. I stand by these words, and I'm truly grateful for all of those who, despite not being the targets of anti-Semitism, choose to stand by as well with us. We see that one of the biggest exporters of anti-Semitism is also the world's greatest sponsor of terrorism, Iran. Only a few hours ago, the IAEA announced that Iran increased its enriched levels, violating the nuclear agreement and proving once and for all that it intends to develop a nuclear weapon. We know that. This is no surprise to all of us. We never bought the fiction that the Iranian regime wanted to normalize its behavior. And today, from here, I call on the European leaders to wake up before it is too late and stop the terrorist regime. Their restraint only encourages Tehran to pursue its dangerous ambitions. They must join President Trump in applying sanctions. I call on the UN Security Council to convene and reapply the sanctions regime. By the way, when they signed this bad agreement, they thought about what will happen if the Iranians will breach the agreement. So it's happening now. So according to this bad agreement, they have to convey the Security Council and apply new sanctions. We must never allow the Iranian regime to terrorize its people or the world ever again. Ladies and gentlemen, when I arrived to the UN 4 years ago, it feels like 40 years ago, I knew we needed a new approach in order to win in this evil, dark place. So I came up with a secret recipe for success. It has two parts. The first one is to be a proud Jew. I am a proud Jew, wearing my yarmulke, reading from my Bible. I demanded that they will bring kosher food into the UN. We got the UN to recognize Yom Kippur as a holiday. We celebrate Passover, Rosh Hashanah. We bring our tradition into the halls. And when we respect our heritage and our tradition, others respect us. So when I read from the Bible during the Security Council, one of the Muslim ambassadors approached me, and he told me, Ambassador Danon, I have listened for many debates, but the fact you read from your holy book, I want to sit down with you. I want to learn more. That's why the secret is to be a proud Jew, but it is not enough. The second step is to bring Israel to the UN and to bring the UN to Israel, literally. So we speak a lot about Israel, but I bring the ambassadors to Israel. How many of you have been to Israel? Raise your hand. Wow, that's amazing. I wish it would have been the case in the UN. But we're getting there. I took with me more than 80 ambassadors to Israel. But before we go to Jerusalem, we land in Poland. We visit the death camps. We teach them about the horrors of the Holocaust. For many of them, it's the first time they hear about it. One of my colleagues from a large country in Asia, he told me, Danny, before you took me to Auschwitz, I never understood. So whenever I had a delegation coming to the UN, and we saw the exhibition about the Holocaust, I walked by. I didn't know what to tell them. After I came back from Poland and Israel, the first thing I do with every dignitary is to go and explain to him about the Holocaust. This is the only way to teach, is to bring them to Israel. And when we land in Israel, they see the beauty, the people, the love. We walk in the city of David. They get connected to their Christian heritage. And I ask them, how you can deny the connection of the Jews to Jerusalem? By doing so, you're actually denying your own connection to Jerusalem. But when I say to them in New York, they don't get it. But when they walk in the old city, when they walk in the Ir David, in the city of David, that's when they get to understand it. And we conclude our visit visiting your embassy in Jerusalem, our united, undivided capital. And we are grateful for President Trump for taking that bold decision. We are grateful for President Morales from Guatemala, and I encourage you to speak about it. We can bring more embassies to Jerusalem. And I tell my colleagues at the UN, you better hurry up. The real estate in Jerusalem, it's really expensive. I cannot promise you prime locations in the future. If you want the right place for your embassy, do it today. Move your embassies to Jerusalem. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about making the UN play by our rules, we are not talking about defense. When it comes to our people and our homeland, we write the rules, we go on offense. We worked with Ambassador Nikki Haley. She's a great ambassador. She did great things for Israel. We put forward a resolution to condemn Hamas, and we got 87 member states to support it. And last month, the Security Council adopted its first ever resolution on persons missing in armed conflict. We are praying every day for our boys who are being held by Hamas. And we are grateful for the member states who helped us to pass this important resolution. Before I conclude, I want to share with you what I did during the last debate in the Security Council. Every 3 months we have a debate about the Middle East. But when they speak about the Middle East in the UN, it's only about Israel. I spoke about our rights to the land. Not about security, not about defense, about our rights. And I said, we have 4 pillars. And I told the ambassadors, listen, because you blame us for everything, but let's talk about facts and rights. The first and most important pillar is the Bible. The Jewish people's rightful ownership of Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. You just read the Bible. I told the ambassador that I hold the Bible, I told him, this is our deed to the land, period. For me, that is enough. I don't need to continue. But I told them, maybe for you, you want more. So I spoke with them about the second pillar, our history. The Jewish claim to the land of Israel is confirmed time and again throughout history. Read Mark Twain. Read history books if you don't read the Bible. The third pillar is the legal claim. Our rights to the land are codified in international law, including the documents that founded the UN itself. And the fourth pillar is the pursuit of international peace and security. A stronger and safer Israel means a stronger and safer world. And you know what happened? This speech became viral. The Bible became viral because I spoke about the truth. I exposed it in front of the Security Council. With all due respect to the distinguished lawyers in the room, no one can argue with that. My friends, the future is bright for the state of Israel. Our technology is changing diplomacy. We have built relations with over 160 countries. In the New Testament, Book of John, chapter 13, verse 34, the Lord our God teaches, and I quote, "Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." Let us continue to love the state of Israel. Let us continue to support each other as keepers of the Holy Land and fighters against anti-Semitism. Let us continue to have strength and use it to defend our values. Let us continue to love our tradition, our faith, and our God-given land of Israel, and let us fight for it with all our love and might. Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help, we will prevail. Am Israel Chai, the nation of Israel lives. Thank you. God bless you. Toda rabah.